It's time for Ask Dale Anything, the show that answers your most perplexing questions with profound answers from one of the top transformational teachers and leaders on the planet, Dale Halloway. I'm your host, Mickey Manning, Dale's left-hand person, as I like to call it, and I've never heard a question that he can't answer. He's been doing this for over 40 years now, and he truly has an answer that's profound and helpful on any topic. So with that, let's get into today's question. All right, I got a couple of great questions here. So I'm going to actually ask this one combined. This came in from two different people. One's anonymous, and it was when you were talking about karma. Their question was, how do we find out what our karma is? And then the other question was, how do I identify and resolve my past karma? So could we combine those and you could answer those together?
Yes, I can. Now those are two very deep questions, or at least remember we did Transform Your Destiny course has a lot to do with that. So it's pretty deep, but to respond at least somewhat here in this forum, our karma shows up through the way we behave. Our karma shows up through what it is that we find showing up in our life. And more specifically, those types of things that show up in our life that we feel like, wait a minute, I didn't ask for this. Oh, but you did ask for it. And you asked for it long ago at soul level. And you asked for it because whatever that is that maybe you don't understand, whatever that is that you feel like you weren't on board with kind of co-creating in your life, that's now showing up in your life, that has always a lot to do with whatever your past karma is. Your way of showing up, as in your behavioral patterns, those lower energy patterns that I often speak on about, they also trace back to one's unresolved past karma. And so you don't have to really go looking for your karma. Your karma is always in front of you. Now, is all of your karma always in front of you? If you end up being one of those that has a lot of karma to resolve, no. What'll happen, you'll have some of your karma from that larger pool of karma that at soul level, you decided or chose to resolve in this, this lifetime experience. And so out of that, like an onion, you're going to peel away at it. So you're going to get a piece of that karma, and it's going to show up somehow, some way in your life in those two areas that I just highlighted. And so you don't really have to go looking for it. What you need to do is just pay closer attention to what's in front of you. What's in front of you right now, and then what's coming out of you. What's coming out of you by the way that you are acting or behaving. So for example, we go back to that control issue that I've brought to everyone's attention here on this particular broadcast. That control issue, that's a karmatic device. Those of us that have deep-seated control issues, it's because we have a chunk of karma that we just have been putting off and putting off and putting off for some time to ultimately resolve. And so therefore, this control issue gets stronger and stronger and stronger because the control works in tandem with the karma, which means if you have a strong or deeper needed control issue inside of your psyche, then that control issue is to keep you separate from having to go face to face with your own karma, having you to go face to face with your own karma to ultimately clear it. By the same token, if you were to release that control issue, if you were to release your need for control in your life and need for control over your environment and need control over your thoughts and need for control towards your goals and your aspirations, your ideals, or your dreams, whatever that might be. When you are doing that work and truly releasing that, what's going to happen is that's going to jar loose the karma that's sitting inside of your psyche or inside of your subconscious, waiting for you to resolve. Because the control is there as a device to keep your karma in place. You clear up the control and it begins to jar loose the next pocket or the next layer of karma. Again, your higher self would never allow you to have full access to all of your karma, especially if you have a lot of karma. It just won't do it. I mean, that would be so self-defeating. But what it will do, it'll allow whatever's up next in the pocket of karma, whatever that next level is, that your higher self will allow that to come to the surface. But it can only come to the surface when you are willing to really go to work in the process of letting go of control in your world, and then replacing that control with higher attributes like trusting, like surrendering. When you replace that need for control with those higher attributes or those higher qualities, then it's that trusting, it's that surrendering that begins to empower you even more, or in a whole new way, to be able to be more effective in the resolving of your past karma. So around that now, as that starts to go, those patterns, those behavioral patterns that basically you're ran by like a program to a computer, right? The programs are in the computer. That's what really runs the computer, so to speak. Same thing here. It's your patterning. Your patterning within you subconsciously, maybe not all of those patterns, but a certain percentage of those patterns are what's known as karmic patterns. These are the tough ones. These are the ones that maybe you're even aware of and you've been attempting to release on, to transform, but they're like a real bad tooth, so to speak. They just don't seem to go away anytime soon. That's because they're well rooted into your psyche, into your subconscious body, well rooted. And when I say well rooted, meaning they could have 3 or 4 roots just in that one karmic pattern, that those roots run deep. They, in some cases, I've seen it where some of those roots, they pretty much take over the person's subconscious body, which is a big statement to make, I know, when you understand the power of the subconscious. But that's somebody who's got a lot of karma from their past, that at soul level, the choice was made to resolve that karma. And so those are the 2 areas. Look at what's showing up in your life. Look at what's coming out of you through your behavioral pattern or behavioral patterns. And then what's coming at you, or what's now entered into your life that you don't understand. Let's say you're still doing the victim thing, and you're really believing that you're a victim and you're being victimized by this relationship or by this project or by this business or by this career or by this whatever. Well, when you're believing that you are being victimized by it, not that it's bad, it's just that you're not getting the point. You're not getting the point yet. You really haven't dialed into what's really going on. As in, what's really going on, this is a part of your karma. And the sooner you can come to realize that, recognize that as such, and then as always, once you recognize it, then you got to get in there and start to embrace it. You got to start working with it. You got to start working with it consciously and responsibly. Then what that does, that starts to jar loose that particular pocket or layer of karma from our life. And then as it jars it loose, then that karma can start to play itself out. Remember I said earlier on, it's, when the karma is ultimately being resolved, it's to some degree, it's got to play itself out. And the reason why it's got to play itself out is because if it's your karma, the first part of the transforming of your karma, releasing of your karma, is you're the one who's got to be able to see it. Because until you see it, you can't go the next step. You're the one who's got to be able to see it. You're the one who's got to be able to recognize this is karma from a past time. Now, does that mean to say you have to go into your past time from 2,000 years ago or 8,000 years ago or 200 years ago or what? No, you do not. Now, doesn't mean to say that's not going to happen. If it happens spontaneously, then we want to embrace that. But none of that is dependent upon you having to go back that far to trace your karma. Rather, what it's dependent upon is whatever your karma is. For those of you that went through the Transform Your Destiny course, you know that all of the karma that you came in this life to resolve, all of it showed up in your life within the first 12 to 13 years of your life. That's where it seeds itself. That's where the soul moves in rather quickly, and it seeds all the karmic themes in our life in those first 12 to 13 years of life. And then by the time we turn 18, we start to forget. We start to forget what actually happened in our childhood. By the time we turn 28, we pretty much have forgotten what's happened in our childhood, which means we've overlooked all of the seed planting for the karma that we are to be resolving in this life. So we now at this point at the age of 28, we're completely disconnected from our karma, completely. In fact, we could even become violent with our words if somebody even suggests like, hey dude, don't you think this is karma that you're paying back? What are you talking about? I don't believe in karma. Yeah, right. Now what's happened is you've shut down. You've shut down and you've fallen asleep so much so that you've completely spaced on the karma that was seeded into this life somewhere in those first 12 to 13 years of this life. Now, the cool thing is all of that can be recalled, meaning the first 12 to 13 years of this life. And that's why I say, and this is something I discovered a number of decades ago, when the fad was, everybody was doing hypnotherapy this, all kinds of regressions and so on and so forth. And right around that time during the fad, it's no longer a fad, as we all know. In other words, it all kind of calmed down and so on. And not that people still don't do it today, but what I discovered is that it's not really dependent upon having to do that, is because it's always showing itself. It's just what needs to happen. People need to be educated properly on how to spot it in their life. Then they need to be empowered correctly on what to do with it when they spot it. And given that, now they can really get into resolving their karma. So again, those two areas, you're paying attention to your behavioral patterns that are coming out of you. You're paying closer attention to what's actually in your life that maybe you think, I didn't create this. Nobody would ever want to create a mess like this. Oh, yeah, but a theme within that mess is your karma. And then, of course, for those of you that have some kind of recall to the first 12 to 13 years of this life, that eventually one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to go back and you're going to start probing. So for those of you that have gone through the Game Changer course, I have a couple of techniques in there where you can probe your childhood. And if you follow through on those techniques that you learn about in the Game Changer course, right, and you really implement those techniques, they'll work like magic for you. And they'll start causing you to remember certain things that have happened back in the earlier part of this life when you were still a child. It's those things that you now start to remember, those remembrance or that remembrance of that particular time period, that's coded. There's a seed in there of your past karma. And so once you start remembering and start working with what it is you're remembering in terms of that memory that starts to come back online again for you in that regard, it just starts to jar loose the karma that's been seeded in that memory that also got buried with the memory back when we were a kid and we weren't empowered. We weren't empowered. We didn't know how to deal with this stuff at that point in time. Most of us just fell unconscious and fell asleep, so to speak. But for those of us that are waking up to this and waking up in this way, you can access pretty much all of your karma, your past karma that you are to be resolving through that of, quite frankly, healing up your childhood. Healing up your childhood, really tapping into the power and the significance of healing your inner child for real now. for real, to really heal that part of you. And then lastly to that, remember that when you let go of control, remember I said control, when somebody's got a deep-seated control issue, then they actually hook their karma into place. They lock it into place. When somebody actually lets go of their control issue and really heals that up, what happens is that device now is no longer being used to lock down the karma. So that in itself, it just becomes a question of time. The karma is going to start to shake loose. Not all at once, but parts of it are going to start to break off like an iceberg or like a glacier. So if you think of a glacier, right? A glacier doesn't break apart all right away, not a large glacier. Because nature shows us as well these laws, right? It breaks off in bite-sized pieces. It breaks off incrementally. Same thing here. If you've got a large amount of karma, the best it's going to do when you're ready. And part of being ready is you got to let go of your control. Got to let go of that control, because once a piece of your karma breaks off from the larger iceberg, so to speak, of your overall karma, once that breaks off, that's all got to come into your body. It's got to run through your nervous system. Memories get released, like I said, in terms of your childhood. And then you got to navigate, you got to work through this energy. You've got to, process this energy. Or for those of you that know about transcovery, this is now you're going to transcover that energy, and you're going to get really good at transcovering that energy. That's what's going to help you to get closer and closer to the resolving of that pocket of karma. And well, you're doing this as you let go of your control or the control. Here's the coolest thing about the karma is to resolve all your karma. It's not dependent upon you having to know all the details of your karma. This has been one of the biggest farces on planet Earth, with those people that say you have to go back to that lifetime and you have to do, oh my gosh, it's so freaking complex, right? Because that is not the truth. The truth is, as long as you get somewhat of a handle on the essence of that pocket of karma that's being resolved through your system, that's all you need. All the other details, all the other lifetimes, should there be other lifetimes involved in this pocket of karma, you don't have to know about any of that. However, if you have a deep-seated need for control, now you have to know about all the detail. And when you have to know about all the detail, you're the one that's going to hold up the process. You're the one that's possibly going to get snafu'd in the process. You're the one that's possibly going to get deeply stuck in the process of actually resolving your karma. And yet, none of that has to be that way. It can be a lot simpler in the way that I'm highlighting right now. It does take work and it does take time. When a good chunk of karma is being released for the purpose of resolution, you'll have an understanding of the essence of what that is. And as long as you don't need to control it anymore, because you really are letting go of control, as long as you genuinely are in that place, then all the details can move rather quickly, like literally at the speed of light through you. But if you still need to control this process, that means you need to get all the details for whatever your reason and so on and so forth, which means you will, at the very least, hold up this process. And in the past, that was somewhat okay. Whereas now, as of this moment and beyond, that's going to become increasingly more difficult to practice in that way when it comes to resolving your karma, meaning whoever continues to practice that old way in resolving their karma, where they need to know all the detail, they need to go back to this life and that life and so on and so forth. Bottom line is they're not going to be able to do it. And on a much deeper note, it's going to be excruciatingly painful for them should they choose to continue on with that old strategy, that old way of dealing with this. Meaning, and lastly, the best way to approach this is get access to it, just enough so you can tap into the essence of it, go to work with it, check your need for control, purge and release on your need to control this process or to control your karma, And out of that, whatever all the detail is around that pocket of karma, it'll move through you at the speed of light, because you now are trusting in the process instead of controlling the process to actually resolve your karma. And given the period that we're now in with karma, because the karma is to be released now on the planet, and again, this part, just so we're clear, this is going to go on for the next 2 to 3 years. And by the time we get into 2022, this is going to get really, really loud on the planet, really loud. And the reason why it's going to get so loud is because the majority of people are going to fight this thing like the plague. And they're going to disguise it under something else. They're going to be absolutely convinced it's something else that's happening to them. And it's not. They're going to be just off, just like you've been off with your karma in the past, where you're thinking it's this, as in going back to whatever it is that shows up in your life that you don't like, that you don't approve of. And then you start saying, well, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't agree to this. I didn't ask for this. Oh, but you did. Some part of you did. And that's what we got to get better at, is recognizing that at the very least, when these types of experiences happen in our life, that some part of us did sign up for this. And in this case, it more than likely is the karma that we're to be now experiencing, we're to be embracing, we're to be working through, so that ultimately it can be and will be resolved. Nikki?
Awesome. Thank you, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
Such a deep topic.
And like I said, we spend, if you remember Transform Your Destiny, come on, that was almost a week-long class.
Oh, that's
And
right.
that's why I opened this up. There is no easy way to just skim over a question like that. And in all fairness, the powers that be that have done everything they know how to do, and they've done an excellent job of doing this, keeping this all hidden from the people. So, as everybody on the Dale Holloway team knows, the second book is going to be coming out sometime by the end of next year, which is Transform Your Destiny. And there's going to be a handful of core themes in that book, and it's going to jar some stuff loose on the planet. And I know it. It's going to be the thickest book of the trilogy that we're writing. So, oh, by the way, Mickey, you'll like this here. I found the book for you that you've been looking for that you've been looking for the last 2 weeks.
Thank you. It's in the living room. I just didn't want to make everybody watch me get up and go get it.
Well, I don't think they would have minded, but nonetheless, that's what Mickey's been referring to, being called to change. So this is the first book in our transformational trilogy. And notice on here, for those of you that are new, where's my finger? Right here. It's got to go here. I got to get my orientation properly. $67 free audio course that comes with the purchase of this book. So whoever you're turning this book on to, whoever you're turning on to the January 1st event that's going to get a copy of the book mailed to them in the mail, that's all going to be part of it for them, right? So I think it's worthy to mention that not only did they get the book for free, shipped to their door for free, but they also, once they get the book, inside the book, there's a special URL that they're going to get access to. As soon as they go there and type in just a little bit of information like their name and their email address, that type of stuff, very simple, they're going to get access to an audio course that we sell in our online learning center for $67. This is real now, guys and gals, right? For $67, they're going to get it for free. They get lifetime access to this $67 audio course. All they got to do is purchase the book. And so for those that do join us at the January 1st event that are qualifying at the $69 price or $67 price or whatever it is, I know it's somewhere around 60 some dollars, that they're going to get a copy of the book for free. So, but that's book number one. Book number two is Transform Your Destiny in the trilogy. Book number two, this book here, Being Called to Change, is almost 300 pages thick. Book number two is going to be even thicker. Book number two, it's going to shake up the structure on planet Earth. It's going to shake up belief systems on planet Earth within our humanity, partly because in book number two, we're going to be taking a very deep dive from like 4 or 5 different angles on the law of karmic return. And it's going to shake some stuff up on planet Earth on purpose. The timing is right. But it is going to shake some things up on the planet. And so we're very much looking forward to that. And the point me bringing that up in light of the question that I just responded to, it is a deeper subject. This karmic thing, there is no, we spent 15 minutes on me answering the question here today, or 10 minutes, whatever it was. But in all fairness, it deserves a much deeper dissertation, because there's so much depth. There's not only there's 2 major primary laws that are within the body of karma. Then there's all these secondary laws that support those primary laws. And not to mention the work that you are to be engaged in. And when I say you are to be engaged in, not because I say so, it's because your soul says so. Your soul, S-O-U-L. Think about that for a moment. It's your soul. And so your soul is like yahooing for this book, Transform Your Destiny, come out in the marketplace big time, because the soul, the collective soul on the planet, has been waiting for this for a long, long time. And so it's going to be very powerful and incredibly beneficial for people, and especially for those that are open to it, that are receptive to it. They're going to just consume this, because it's going to help them immensely to get better at resolving their past karma. And so for those of you that are with us here in our Elevate membership, that you're getting a massive head start in all this, to really get engaged and then be reminded of this and working with this. And then now knowing for these next few years, this is a major theme, resolving karma, both individually as well as collectively. So again, we all get to be a part of this. And this is something that we ought to be very excited to be a part of it, even though when you're releasing the karma, a lot of times it doesn't feel very exciting when you're in process of releasing or resolving the karma. But ultimately, from the highest places, from the deepest places, it's within inside of ourself, that is, it's very exciting, because it's so incredibly liberating. It's so incredibly freeing.
Absolutely true. And I do have to say that it's also like a facelift. It's a natural facelift. I look 10 years younger than I did before I started working on resolving my karma, thanks to you. Before I move on from this topic, Dale, I just want you to know that I wrote in my notes, transformational work is the new Botox. Spread the word.
Transformational work, the new Botox. Let me check. I don't know if I have any Botox here, but maybe somebody out there does, and maybe they're getting a good chuckle out of that. So.
Everybody says you're so pretty, though. It's because you worked from the inside out.
Yeah, I do. That's true. I work from the inside out. That is right.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you found Dale's teachings helpful and you want to get more of them, then you might really like his free ebook that we have for you, 12 Simple Ways to Change Your Life in 30 Days. You can download it for free at delhalloway.com/practices. That's delhalloway.com/practices. In it, you'll find 12 simple ways explained to you in exact step-by-step fashion that will cause your life to move forward in the next month. Simply choose one of the practices, any one of them, do it for 30 days straight, and you'll see a new you begin to manifest. I am not kidding. Download your free copy today at DALEHALAWAY.com/practices. Oh, and by the way, if you know anybody who might find this content helpful, please share it with them. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you next time.